In this drum lesson, we're going to check out the top 7 Chad Smith drum beats that I think every drummer needs to know. Before we dive into it, 2 important things. Number 1, if you want the sheet music for this, it's going to be in a pinned comment. It's also going to be in the video description, so you can download that and follow along if you'd like to. The second thing is, if you like this series, the top drum beats, then I've done a ton of other drummers, John Bonham, Dave Grohl. I've listed those below, so be sure to jump over there and check those out as well. I've been getting requests for a Chad Smith drum lesson for years, and so we are going to jump into this. This is going to be particularly of his playing with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Obviously, these are my 7 favorite. What is your favorite drum beat? Put that in the comment below so that we can, so I can go listen to them. These are ones that I've picked out over the years that I really love. He reminds me of somewhat of a John Bonham feel whenever he's playing. He's got a real heavy feel to it, as well as he incorporates a lot of funk elements into it. So I hear a lot of James Brown influences, Clyde and J-Bo in his playing. So let's jump into this first one, especially this first one. Charlie is the name of the song. And we're going to look at the main groove, okay? It's about 113 BPM. And this is very, very reminiscent of a John Bonham style funk groove, as well as a throwback to James Brown stuff. Something you should know about Chad is that they do improvise a good bit. There are some songs, and I'll be very specific with the ones where he plays pretty straightforward the whole time. This one, he improvises a good bit. The hi-hat's gonna be opening, closing. There's gonna be some different fills in there and some different ghost notes. So I'm gonna normalize that groove in this, in the sheet music. I've got 4 bars of it transcribed for you, kind of 2 different little variations, but I'm gonna normalize this groove so that you can play it as a loop. So if there's any discrepancies between the sheet music and what I'm explaining, that's the reason. Sometimes I just normalize the groove if they're doing a lot of improvising. All right, so let's check this out. The thing that's going to be consistent, it's a 2-bar loop. And so we have 8th notes here on the hi-hat. Of particular interest, always listen to how Chad plays the hi-hat. It really does give his grooves a certain feel to them. All right, so we have 8 notes here. The snare drum in the first measure, the downbeat, or excuse me, the accented note's gonna be on 2 and the and of 2, all right? So we have 8th notes here, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now that we have that, let's take this beat by beat and dissect what he does. In the first measure, we have we have a hi-hat and then a ghosted left hand on the E of 1, another hi-hat, and then a kick drum. We also have a kick drum on the downbeat. So it's gonna go like this. He doesn't play that ghost note all the time, and sometimes he opens that hi-hat on that first beat within this song. Now, beat 2, we have a downbeat, obviously, on beat 2 with an accent on the snare drum, and then we have 2 E and a ghost note here on the snare. In beat 3, we have a continued 8th notes here, and we're gonna do alternating 16th notes between the hands. So it's gonna go 3 E and a, ghosted in the left hand. The kick drum is gonna play the same pattern that it does on beat 1. It's going to play 3 E and a. So now that can be a little bit tricky because we have to play that kick drum with that ghost note. So watch for any flams there in between those 2. Now the next beat of the first measure is going to be beat 4. It's going to go 4 E and a. Now, that double hit on the and of 4 that he does, an accent into an unaccented note, I call that a punch jab within ghosting context. He does that quite a bit within his playing, all right? Now, the only other thing you want is on beat 3, open that hi-hat. He does that a lot within this groove. So, very slowly. All right, in the second measure, he's going to vary it up a little bit more, and we're going to go with, on the beat 1, it's going to have 1, a ghosted E, and then an and on the kick drum. On beat 2, we're going to have 2 E and then a ghost note. Beat 3 is similar to the beat 3 that we just had, but we're going to eliminate one of those ghost notes, so it's going to go 3 E and And then beat 4, we have that punch and jab in that ghost, so an accent into an unaccented note. So it's going to go 4 E, and then we open the hi-hat on an. All right, let me play that whole groove slow, and then I'll speed it up to 113 BPM album tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of the reasons I love that groove is because it shows the history that he has listened to, like Bonham, and he's listened to James Brown, and he's incorporating that in there. Specifically, that first measure, whenever we delay that backbeat to the end of 4, that's a very typical James Brown type of a drum move. All right, so let's take it to the second song. It's going to be Give It Away Now. This is the main groove for that song. This groove's right up at the intro, and it's at 93 BPM once we get it to where we want it to, and the hi-hats are going to be open the whole time, all right? So 8th notes on the hi-hat, 2 and 4 on the snare drum. Pretty simple there. 3 and 4 and... So the kick drum, I'm gonna clap the rhythm out for you because whenever you can't play it on the drum set, it's best if you can count it and clap it. That really, really does help you if you can isolate it like that. So on beat 1, we have 1 E and 1 E and Beat 2, we have the upbeat of 2, so 2 and. 1 E and 2 and then 3 and 4 are the same rhythm. So it's gonna go 3 E and 4 E and. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 3 and 4 and. Let's put that up to album tempo, and I'll demonstrate how that's going to sound. The third groove that I think you should know from Chad Smith is at the 24-second mark of Suck My Kiss. This is a throwback to some funk rock type roots. So it's going to be a 2-bar groove, and we are going to play, again, 8th notes here on the hi-hat, and the kick drum, 2 and 4 on the snare drum in this first measure. And then the kick drum is going to go 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and. On the E of 4, he's gonna open that hi-hat and close it real quick. So let me play that. 3 and 4 The second measure was going to be very similar to that first measure, but in beat 3 is where it varies. In beat 3, it's going to go 3, E, and on the kick drum. And then on beat 4, we have, again, we're seeing him bring this back into it. It's going to be that accent with an unaccented note that he did in the first groove that I broke out for you. So it's going to go 4, E ghosted, and ghosted here. But he's opening the hi-hat on beat 4 for both the downbeat and the upbeat. All right, let me play that full groove, all 2 bars at a slow tempo, and then I'll speed it up to album tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 4 is from Scar Tissue at about the 1 minute 43 second mark. And this is going to be swung. So this is going to be like a swung funk. So instead of straight, it'll be swung. This is also something that they use in quite a bit of their music, all right? Now we're gonna see a couple of elements come back that we've already seen. In particular, the first kick drum pattern, we've seen that in 2 of his grooves already. In beat 2, we have that accent with the unaccented note, and beat 4 actually looks like beat 4 of the last song that we just did with an accent, unaccented note, opening the hi-hat, unaccented note, all right? So let me break this down. 8 notes here on the hi-hat, 2 and 4 accented on the snare drum. We're gonna play 1 E and in the kick drum and fill in the 16th notes with ghost notes here on the snare drum. Beat 2, we've seen this pattern before. It's gonna go 2 E and ghosting everything but the downbeat on the snare. Beat 3, we have 3 E and. And beat 4, 4 E, open the hi-hat, On beat 2, the of 2 is going to be accented. It's going to be louder than the other ghost notes. And then don't forget that we have to swing this one, all right? I'll play this up to album tempo about 88 BPM. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5 is a killer tom groove from the song By the Way, and it's right around the 33 second mark. Now this one's moving. It's about 127 BPM once you get it up to tempo. The cool thing is he opens the hi-hat on 8th notes and plays that with his foot. So 8th notes are going to be going on the left foot. Then in the right hand, we're gonna have 8 notes here. So that goes with the hi-hat. In the left hand, the accent's going to be on 2, and then we're gonna bring in that ghost note on the, for both of 2 and 4, we're gonna bring a ghost note on the E. So. So beat 1, kick drum and floor tom on 1 and. Beat 2 is gonna go 2 E and on the kick drum. Beat 3 is gonna go 3 accented note here on the snare drum, 3 E and on the kick drum. And then beat 4 is a little bit challenging once you get it up to tempo. It's gonna go 4 E and on the high tom. Let me play that slow, and then I'll play it up at 127 BPM where the actual song is. Again, that's at the 33-second mark of By the Way. That's the tom groove happening there. Number 6 is off the song Dark Necessities. It's the main groove for this one. This is one of those songs where he picks apart and he really does stick to it and doesn't vary much from it. A lot of their songs, he'll improvise around what's going on within the groove, but this song he sticks pretty strict to it. And on the hi-hat is 16th notes, and it's gonna be pretty consistent 16th notes, so in volume. The only snare drum we have is the accent on 2. The kick drum is gonna go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and. This song is right around 92 BPM, so let me play this a little bit slower with a click and then I'll speed it up to the album tempo. And this 7th groove is one that I just had to stick in there. You hear it in this song. This song's called Other Side, and it's from about the 33-second mark. This groove is also in By the Way. It's on Under the Bridge. You'll hear this groove recurring within their discography and across their career. And what it is, it's a very simple rim click on the downbeats with 8th notes on the hi-hat. And then usually the kick drum is doing a very similar thing to what is happening here. So it's going to be 1 and then 3 and. Really simple, but it recurs within their catalog a lot. All right, so it's going to be a lot of times it's not the complexity of the groove, it's just that they use that one a lot. It's kind of like the Neil Peart ride cymbal bell groove. He uses that one a ton, and this is one that Chad comes back to within their music. So let's put it to a click, play it slow, and then get it up to album tempo about 120 BPM. And there you have it. Those are the top 7 Chad Smith drum beats that I think every drummer needs to know. Again, specifically looking at his drumming with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. If you want the sheet music, go download that. It is in a pinned comment as well as in the video description. As well, put down in the comments your favorite Chad Smith groove, what songs it's from, where it is in that song, and then jump over and watch the rest of the videos in this series. You would probably particularly want to check out the one on Dave Grohl, the one on John Bonham. I hear a lot of John Bonham's style within Chad's playing. Click that subscribe button, share this with somebody if you think it may help them. If it's helped you, that would be great. And I'll see you in the next drum lesson.